Yes.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji mentioned that there is a lot of children here, and this is a Japa session, and definitely they will get bored.
I said,
And
perhaps they will get
perhaps,
bored.
okay.
It's like Kamamatsa already. What's your name? What is your name?
Om.
Om. Om Shanti.
So, basically, like we want to keep it very calm and peaceful, so that the session, the concentration is there. So if children are making any slight noise, immediately the mother should take note and they should take them out. And if they can play somewhere, that's good.
Do you chant Japa every day? One round every day? How wonderful. And what's your name? Your name? Almost. What is your name?
Deepak.
You two are friends? Do you have Japa beads with you? Because we're going to, I'll speak a little bit, but basically we're going to have a Japa workshop. Because Japa is so important for the devotees. So important. Your name is really Om. You're also, you are Om brothers. Are there any other devotees here named Om? No. Lama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vasaya Jaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Panchacharani Vedishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshavadi Om Yunasmanandasya Dinanjana Shalakaya Shaksu Samritam Yena Tatsmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manabhustam Stapitam Vayam Bhutale Sayam Bhakadamayam Dadati Satamai Vadishayam Sri Vyasjala Prasanna Vayam Patitam Bhakadamayam. Now, raise your hand if you had an easy, peaceful day today. You know, I'm serious. Yes? How nice. You must have walked here and didn't get in the traffic of Bangalore.
I walked up to this place.
Huh?
I walked up to this place.
Oh, okay. Yes, I thought so. How many of you had maybe a difficult day today? Be honest. Amongst family members? Okay. Not one? What do you do when you have a difficult day? Also, just curious, does this sound a little too loud or something? Because it seems to be, is it okay?
It's okay.
It seems to be making some kind of a little noise.
That's true. That noise is there.
Okay.
It's a device fault.
Okay. Om, can you fix it? Double Om. So, what do you do when you have a bad day? That actually, what do you mean by a bad day? Raise your hand if you'd like to say what do you mean when you have a bad day? Yes. What is your name?
Rajesh.
Rajesh. You're the oldest son in your family?
Yes. If we say bad, on different days there are different ways we interpret bad, but mostly it is we have a certain thing in mind that we expect it to go in a certain way. When things don't go or get misaligned, we think it is bad.
Okay. What is the result of having a bad day?
I mean, we can be upset or we can get irritated, we can get...
When you say we get upset, what do you mean?
Huh?
Well, when you say we get upset, first of all, that's one rule. Don't say we, here we say I. Okay. But also, what do you mean by that, getting upset? What part of you gets upset?
I think it's the mind.
Yeah.
Mostly it's the mind.
Mostly it's the
At
mind.
times it can also be the heart. You can be emotionally even down.
Yes. But maybe I should use that one. And you can use this one. But okay, but where emotions also exist in the mind, or also the heart? Is the mind in the heart also?
I think it will change from one day to another. If you become annoyed or upset or irritated, I think it is the mind. I may be wrong. I'm just saying what comes
No,
out.
you're 100% correct, in my opinion. But not only my opinion, in the 23rd chapter of the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, there is one chapter called about the song of the Avanti Brahmana. Raise your hand if you've ever read that. Okay. It is a very special chapter. It comes because in the previous chapter, it speaks about, Krishna speaks about controlling the mind. And the mind is so difficult to control that Uddhav asks, is it really possible to control the mind? Krishna and Arjuna have the same discussion. And Chanshanam hi manas Krishna. The mind is always flickering and moving. Have any of you noticed that? Have you ever noticed that sometimes the mind becomes so absorbed in something and nothing else seems important? And then in 1 second it can change and shift, and that same thing has no value at all to the mind. So in the 23rd chapter of the 11th canto, there's a story of the Avanti Brahmana. Raise your hand if you know the story. Okay. But I'll tell the pastime anyway. That there was once a man who was very, very wealthy, but he was a very heavy miser. Very heavy miser. He wouldn't spend money on anything. He wouldn't pay his taxes. He wouldn't spend any money on his family. He wouldn't do any worship of the devatas. And he wouldn't even spend money for himself. And his great pleasure, of course, was locking the door and then going into the place where he kept his gold and the jewels and his money, and then he would count it and then put it back and lock that and put another lock and put a painting in front of that and then unlock the door and then go out. And that was his happiness. He didn't get any true happiness or to speak of any service from the wealth he had. So when someone is a miser and someone has financial ability and shares it with no one, this kind of a person will not have a friend in the whole world. And not only won't he have a friend, how would you define a friend, Rajesh Prabhu?
A friend is an individual who you trust.
Why do you trust him?
If you need help, if you want to express your feelings or share anything, you would always think that this person will care for me.
He's your well-wisher.
Well-wisher.
He actually wishes you well, or she actually wishes you well. This person is a friend. So, this miser person did not have a friend in the world. He trusted no one. And therefore, instead of having people who were his well-wishers, who cared for him. Everyone secretly, what did they secretly think? What were they secretly hoping for him? Trouble, yes? That is the way of the world. So, slowly, day after day, trouble began to befall him. The government, knowing that he wasn't paying his taxes, started taking his property and his wealth. The devotees, being upset with him for not doing any sacrifices, just taking and not giving, began to make ways that he would lose his money gradually. His family members figured out ways to steal money from him. And then at some point, he had nothing. And then, when he had nothing, his family members kicked him out on the street. Now, we can imagine how terrible it would be to today be a wealthy person, and everyone is smiling at you when you're wealthy. There's something very funny about being not funny, but it's ironic about being a very wealthy person. When you're a wealthy person, even though you have more money than anyone else, when you go somewhere, everyone always pays for everything that you do. And when you go somewhere, everyone smiles at you. Like, who is the wealthiest person nowadays in the world?
Baron.
Who? Bezos, maybe. No. Okay, you are up on these things. Temple presidents must know these things. Okay, say if Jeff Bezos, it used to be Bill Gates, if he would walk in here, what would we do? Would anyone be able to listen to the class? No, we would all stand up and we would smile at him. And he's used to everywhere he goes, everyone smiles at him. But he knows that everyone has one thought in mind. How can I
be as rich as him?
You yes. If he walked in here, what would you be thinking? Only if I could be as rich as him? Or would you be thinking, only if I could figure out some way to get some of his money? Which one would you be thinking? You don't have to answer that question. But just imagine what life would be like. That everywhere you go, everyone smiles at you, they buy things for you, they open the door for you, they stand up wherever you are, they shake your hand, but everyone is thinking, how can I get some of his money? Who can you trust in the world? So it's actually a very dangerous thing to have all that money and power, because very rare to find a friend, a person who is simply your well-wisher. But in any case, this Avanti Brahmana, does anyone know where Avantipur is? What is it called now? Ujjain. Yes. So he was kicked out. Get out. You get out. No, not you. You stay. But that's what, they just kicked him out on the street, and they didn't care for him because he had the ability to care and help others, and he didn't do it. He was so hard-hearted and closed-hearted. So he was out on the street. So just imagine how he felt. He was powerful. Everyone was smiling at him always. And suddenly he had nothing. Nowhere to live, nowhere to eat, no one smiled at him. And because of some piety, some punya he had in the past, suddenly, after lamenting and lamenting and lamenting for some time, it just hit him that my happiness doesn't come from all these things outside. If I can't be happy inside, I can't be happy anywhere, practically speaking, no matter where I am, no matter what I have. And from now on, he thought, do the Sampanya. I will just put my mind inside. I will try to always taste my relationship with Krishna. I will remember Krishna always. And he became so, his unhappiness became the impetus. How do you say impetus in Kannada language? Impetus means driving force. How do you say impetus? How do you say inspiration?
Prerna.
Prerna. So it became his unhappiness became his prerna for finding a deeper form of happiness, a happiness inside that nothing and no one could take away from him. And he just decided to focus his consciousness inside on Krishna. Now everyone, just for a moment, close your eyes and think of your most favorite, most dear form of Krishna, or your most dear deity. Just put that deity in your mind right now. And put that Lord of yours. We can do some service for that deity too. Now why don't you just collect some beautiful and fragrant flowers and take those flowers and make it into a beautiful garland. And please approach that beautiful deity, your deity, your Ishtadevata, and give that garland. You know, when we give something to Krishna, it's not that Krishna needs patram pushpam palam toyam. It's not that Krishna needs leaves and flowers and food and water, but he accepts bhaktya-paritam. He accepts the devotion. So there's an outside manifestation is the flower, but it's the devotion that we soak that flower in. So give something to Krishna. See if you can find a wonderful mango and present it to your Istadevata, or some wonderful fruit. And see if you can make a jewel necklace out of any jewels you want. And offer that to Krishna. With gold and silver and jewels. And then humbly bow down. And then open your heart, just at least a little bit. And offer some prayers to Krishna. Tell him there's some deep secrets, or her, or whoever you're praying to, some deep secrets of your heart. Bow down, offering obeisances, glorify your Ishtadevata. And then pray to always remember him, that he doesn't leave you. And then slowly, slowly come back here by opening your eyes, slowly, slowly, slowly. So this Avanti Brahmana, he just went completely internal like that. Meditating always on Krishna in his heart. And he just decided, I'm finished dealing with this outside world. I don't care what happens in the outside world. I'm just going to meditate on Krishna. So he became first sad and unhappy. But then he became very detached. But very attached to Krishna. And his determination was so strong. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care if they give me food or beat me. I just don't care. I'm just going to focus my consciousness on Krishna. I saw also with some of you, when you were thinking about Krishna and were finding some peace inside, and then I said slowly open your eyes, but some of you were very slow in opening your eyes. You wanted to stay in the thinking internal and thinking about Krishna. Prabhupada said, no, okay, I'll ask him, here's a question for the mothers. Is that a serious cry or not a serious cry? No, it's not even a little bit serious. Now, maybe we can go and pinch the baby a little bit and make a real serious cry, and then we'll hear something. Then we'll hear something, not only looking. But that's not a serious cry. And Prabhupada said, this chanting should be done like a baby crying for mother, a serious cry, that I don't want anything else. I won't settle for anything else. And this Brahmana, he went internal with that mood. I just don't care about anything else. So sometimes when someone is very frustrated, they become like that for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes until their mobile phone rings or something, or 20 minutes, but he was fully determined. And he began wandering. And at first the people in his village, they said, oh, here is the man who got kicked out of his house, and because he has nowhere to eat and live, he's become a beggar. Go away, go away. He didn't care what they thought, not even a little. He was just remained internally thinking of the Lord. And then he began wandering. He would beg for a little food. Sometimes he would get food. Sometimes he wouldn't get food. He didn't care. Sometimes people would tease him and steal the food that he had begged. Sometimes they would make it dirty. He didn't care. He was just internally absorbed. And he was getting so much pleasure from that internal absorption that he had no desire to change or come out. And he lived like that. And some people treated him terribly, like an animal almost. But no one could break his internal determination to always focus his mind on Krishna. And then there's the song that he sang. He wouldn't talk to anyone, he wouldn't respond to anyone, but he composed a very important song that he would sing, either alone or to himself. And it basically said this one point, or 2 points, that the troubles I experience are not caused by external circumstances. The misery unhappiness I experience is not caused by people who treat me bad. It is not caused by the amount of wealth I have or don't have. It is not caused by my physical situation. It's not even caused by graha, by planets. There is only one cause of misery. And that one cause is my mind. He was saying that if the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, then nothing can or will cause us difficulty. And then he said one verse, which is a very famous verse, the verse of the Tridandi Bhikshu Sannyasi. Does anyone know that verse? Evam sastaya paratmanishtam dishtayam aham trishyami dharatyaparam tamomukundagri nasevayara. That he was determined in this one way, that I will cross this vast ocean of difficult, poisonous ocean of misery. I will cross it by taking shelter of Paratma Nishtam, fixed in shelter of Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, the Parama Atma, the Supreme Lord. And I will cross by taking this path, which is the same path that the Mahashipis, the great souls in the past, they used to cross the ocean of material miseries. They used to transcend by this one thing, by this one path of focusing their consciousness upon the lotus feet and the service of Lord Mukunda, Mukundagri, Nisevayaiva. The lotus feet of Lord Mukunda, the giver of liberation. Also Mukunda means one whose face blossoms like a kunda flower, very beautiful. So this is actually the methodology of bringing happiness, true happiness to the heart. Now, there's a process of obtaining depth in Krishna consciousness. Our whole life is really, for one who's a serious devotee, is part of that process of attaining depth in Krishna consciousness. And this doesn't matter what one's situation in life really is, or it doesn't make a difference. But this is what life is meant for. It is not even meant for this part of my life is for Krishna and this part of my life is for me. It's not meant for that. The whole life has to become one, not to live a divided life. And that doesn't mean that one has to move into a temple, although it can make it simpler, Prabhupada told me. But it means that we should use everything and learn how to use everything that we do and who we are and make it an offering to Krishna. With devotion. But this is very, very deep. And I've seen myself that, sometimes I become very determined. From now on, I'm just going to think about Krishna, what I'm doing. And then I get stuck in Bangalore traffic, and everyone is honking, and I last for about 2 minutes before I'm also disturbed, and my mind is disturbed, and I forget all about Krishna. So there's a process of becoming so advanced and so determined and so advanced that we give our heart completely to Krishna. That is, on the basic level, it's called Sharanagati, surrender. I am yours, Krishna. And for a devotee who's given himself to Krishna, really given himself to Krishna, then his mood is Gotra Te Paranam Tata. Or one could say that his mood is, that as Prabhupada says in one purport of the Bhagavad Gita, that such a person lives in the mercy of Krishna. He sees nothing other than Krishna's mercy. So how to attain such a deep platform so that the winds of our fate, the winds of our karma just don't knock us over so frequently? How to become actually deep in Krishna consciousness? So for the next 3 days, we will practice our japa. Not practice exactly, but sadhana means practice. So yes, we will practice our japa. We will chant japa. And we will try to improve our japa. And then 3 days we will talk about one wonderful pastime of Sri Narada Muni, which he teaches very much by his own life, how to become fixed and deeper in our Krishna consciousness. Basically means how to fall in love with Krishna, how to purify our heart to such a degree and associate with Krishna to such a degree that we actually become so attracted to Krishna, and we our taking shelter of Krishna so deep that nothing can disturb us in this world. And at some point, we need this all the time, but at some point, when it's time to leave this world, we're going to really need this. We're going to really need this. There's a famous saying by the founder of the Apple computer company, whose name is, or was, that if you live every day as if it's going to be the last day of your life, one day you will be correct. And it's true. It's not, we can laugh now, but if that happens to be the day, we won't be laughing so easily. But it's true. And in one sense, the hourglass of our life, the sand is moving through the hourglass of our life. And we have something to learn, we have something to achieve in life that we can hold on to even at the most difficult time. So, I would like to speak about Japa, and then mostly I would like to chant with you all. And then we'll speak again. And yes, there's the clock I was looking for. Now, I have a few thoughts and suggestions to share with you about Japa, how to improve your Japa. The first is that before you begin to chant, you really do have to prepare your mind. And in one sense, by my speaking now and telling you the story, the pastime of the Avanti Brahmana, I was trying to bring you here now. Because we all have good days, we have bad days, and no one has a perfectly good day, and probably no one even has a perfectly bad day. But our minds are always dwelling in the past, thinking about the future, worrying about this, hoping for this, desiring that. That's okay on a certain level, we can't stop it. But when it's time to chant our japa, we are very fortunate if we can prepare our mind to think in a very simple way. And that very simple way is that for this time, For this short time when I'm chanting my japa, I have nothing else to do. I have nothing else to do except to try my best to be with Krishna in the form of the holy names. To be with Krishna in the form of his holy names. It sounds so simple, but one really, if one wants to chant with japa, one really has to become determined to focus, to prepare one's mind, to fix it on this point. And it makes all the difference. That for this short time that I'm chanting my japa, because I have so many hours in the day, this time is my time to be with Krishna. And if we have developed the bad habits that sometimes I have, that I'm just pushing the beads and letting my mind run all over the universe and even it's better than not chanting, but we'll find that the chanting doesn't bring us the satisfaction that we were longing for, and not only longing for, that maybe we were promised, just chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime. But for one's life to actually be sublime, we're all taking steps to having a sublime life, but for our life to actually be sublime, it has to be, our chanting must be deep. And there's so many meanings, so many levels that it can be deep. One level is that we're focusing and we accept that I have nothing else to do. I'm going to try my best to hear the Hare Krishna mantra. That we can do with our will, with our desire. I'm going to try my best to hear the holy names of Krishna, and we'll speak about that in a moment more. But that's one step. But that's a step we can do by the strength of our desire to improve. And even that step is wonderful. Because if you take one step to Krishna, it's like probably all of you have had the experience of having a conversation with someone who is not interested in having a conversation with you. Now, who am I going to ask to help me with this one? I've already gotten so much help from Bhurijan Prabhu. No, I'm not going to ask you, but I'm going to ask. Yes. What is your name, Prabhu?
Bhuvanesh.
Bhuvanesh. That is the name of Lord Shiva. Yes? The Lord of the three worlds. Now, I want you to tell me, start telling me right now about your day today. Just start telling me about it and don't stop. But what's your reaction? Go tell me about your day.
I got up in the morning, I took bath, I got fresh up and chanted 4 rounds. Then I went to my office. There was some work pending. I started doing that. I asked my manager to give me some access, but he ignored me. And when I was leaving, he was asking me, where are you living? We have so much of issues pending. And then I took the bus and I came here.
I noticed you ended the story quite quickly. Now, how did you feel? You knew I was playing to make a point. But how did you feel? What was your thought?
That to end what I am speaking, end as soon as possible.
Why? What were you feeling?
Like I am being ignored.
Yeah. And were you feeling that I had no interest in what you were saying at all?
Yeah.
Yes. And how did you feel about that? Did you want to, you didn't want to continue relating with me. You wanted to stop as quickly as possible. Yes. And did you feel a little insulted? Even, you knew I was just playing, right? So how many of you have ever had the experience of talking to someone who had no interest in having a conversation with you? Okay. Anyway, I could start family feuds here. So if we sit down to chant Japa, and we have no interest in dealing with Krishna or being with Krishna, he's a person. He's a supreme person. Now we can't say he feels insulted or because we don't know, we can't understand what Krishna's transcendental mind is like. It's unlimited, it's transcendental. But he's certainly not going to, or very rarely he's going to force us to have a relationship with him. But on the other hand, if someone is very interested in hearing what you have to say and carrying on a conversation with you, then it encourages you so much to have a relationship with that person. Yes. It's just natural, and Krishna is a person, and we are his part and parcel. So when we are interested in having a relationship with Krishna, Krishna's interest in having a relationship with us increases. Until the point that if we are intensely eager to have a relationship with him, and we don't want anything else in this world, the only thing that's important is that relationship with Krishna, then Krishna's mercy will come. The stage is actually called Shakti. Because we tend to always want, give me your mercy, give me your blessings, give me your blessings, give me your mercy, give me your blessings, give me your mercy, mercy, blessings, blessings. But what about our part? Our part is to increase our desire and act accordingly to be with Krishna. To show Krishna that we are serious. We tend to think of, we want blessings and mercy like it's some kind of a pill, so we don't have to work hard or something like that. We don't have to do anything. It's all up to him. But we should do our part in the relationship. And our part is to try our best, especially when we're chanting Japa. And our mood should be at this specific time. Of course it's true when we're doing kirtan and worshipping the deities, and it's true in many times. But when we're chanting Japa, if we just prepare our mind in this simple way, that for this time, I have nothing else to do except be with you, Krishna. And I'm going to try my best to be with you now by hearing your holy names, because Abhinatam Namanamana, that your name and you, Abhina, they're the same. So I'm trying to touch you in the form of your holy names, in the form of the sound vibration of your holy names. How? With my consciousness. When my consciousness was absent, that's what was happening when you were talking to me. My consciousness was somewhere else. And it would make you very uncomfortable. And you knew I was just playing. So when our consciousness is somewhere else when we chant, Krishna knows that, oh, he's not serious about having a relationship with me. So I'm not serious about having a relationship. As soon as he turns to me, then I reciprocate in that way. So we want to turn to Krishna. And the simplest, easiest level of doing that while we're chanting Japa is try to hear the sound vibration. And then we're touching Krishna without consciousness by the process of hearing. And for that, during the short time we're together chanting japa, like we're going to do in a moment, we should simply try our best to hear. And we usually say, just if you can hear one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, beginning with Hare, if you can hear one mantra, we keep the goal sort of simple. If I can hear one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, beginning with Hare, I'm so fortunate. We make that our goal. So, in a few moments, we'll begin to chant. And we'll chant for some time. And we should try our best to do what? Try our best to do what? First, to make an internal determination, sankalpa, that for this short time we're together right now, or the short time of our japa session, I have nothing else to do except be with Krishna in the form of His holy name. This is a very rare time, a very private time in a sense. It's just my time to be with Krishna. That's how we should look at japa. It's my time to be with Krishna. And how to do that? We want to touch the sound vibration of Krishna's names with our consciousness. We want to keep our consciousness engaged. And remember that He's a person, and He's aware of what the person who's chanting is, how sincere they are at this particular time. So if you can just try to hear one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the one you're chanting right now. Keep it very simple. Don't even try to hear one at a time, because then your mind goes to the future. Don't try to chant 16 good rounds, or even 4 good rounds, or even 1 good round. Just keep it very simple and try, because you can't do that in the moment that you're chanting. If you can hear the mantra that you're chanting, you're doing so well. And the experience is quite different than moving the beads, saying the mantra, but consciously being somewhere else. So, would you like to try?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, we'll see. And I'll also try. So, while we're chanting, will you two try for this short time? To try to chant and listen? You try your best, and if it gets too hard for you, then I think it's okay. You can I don't know what you can do right now. Everyone else is chanting. You can't even walk to the back because there's no place for you to walk. But just try your best for this time, okay? And while we're chanting, sometimes I'll also chant and be trying to do the same thing. And also, I'll speak a little bit just to remind you of what we're doing. So when I'm speaking, don't stop chanting. You don't even really have to listen if you don't want to. It's just to remind you to bring your mind back to what we're doing. Because we don't want to chant mindlessly. We want to engage our mind in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada, when he spoke about japa, his basic instruction was to chant and hear. So hear one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, beginning with the first word Hare. Try for that. So before we begin, just prepare your mind. How to prepare the mind? You can understand how you'd like to do it yourself, but I suggest that you can think in terms of, for this short time we're going to be chanting right now, I have nothing else to do, except this is what I have to do now, is to be with Krishna in the form of His holy name. And then if you feel that you're not so qualified, and you might not do so well, you might wish to pray for extra strength to do this from Guru, from Vaishnavas, from Srila Prabhupada, from C.C. Gauranitai, from your favorite Devata, the dust of Vrindavan, water of Brahmamani. And then whenever you're ready, then you just begin. Just try your best. And if your mind wanders, don't worry, it's natural. Just bring it back to the simple goal of being with Krishna in the form of the Holy. If you can feel one Hare Krishna mantra, you are very fortunate. So try your best. Try your best. Try your best. And Krishna knows that if he accepts the attempt as good as success, just particularly get sincere attempt to be with Krishna in the form of his own. Mind wanders, don't worry, it's natural. Just very gently bring it back to the simple goal of being with Krishna in the form of his holy name. Try to feel, try to touch the sound vibration of your consciousness again. And if you can hear one Hare Krishna mantra, you're so fortunate. Just try your best. But be very gentle. Try to touch the mantra in your consciousness. Try to be gentle by doing it. Very